us to see out of this what would be the strategic approaches and the tactical ones that have to be analyzed. The second issue is not only to seek the further support, the full support of the European Union and of NATO and all the allies, but also to seek to address the internal vulnerabilities which are quite prevalent in the region, and we know it because we're also facing it on a daily basis. So this is important that this process go hand in hand with a twofold approach. And the third issue, I would say, definitely should be a greater synergy because it's affecting the spillover effect of what is happening here. It's affecting us, the spillover effect of what is happening in our eastern neighborhood that we support as well in this project of addressing the instability, addressing the money influence. It's also affecting us, and to us it's affecting you as well. So we have to have a more synergic approach on this.
Quickly, to leave with a positive note, I mean, there are two interesting things at the moment. Enlargement process is really restarting now. There is a momentum to be used. Ukraine, Moldova are using this momentum, so I understand the frustration in the Western Balkans, but don't lose this train. Don't lose this train. So use it. Second, there is obviously a need for more investment from the EU, and I would like to point out the speech from von der Leyen recently, who has announced more funds to the region to help the convergence with the EU and EU standards. You're right. I fully support your point about rule-based regional cooperation. So there are good news coming on, but you should take the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Many thanks. Do we have a last comment from Ilhan? To just wrap it up.
I think we don't have enough time to wrap it up, but I want to say is that just, dear friend just referred to Cyprus, but Cyprus, if I'm not mistaken, Cyprus island does not belong to the Balkans.
Radite, bez problema. Imam tako. Dakle, kako se ovo... Vi ćete me turn on. I'll be turned on. Da mi sve je ulabavljeno. Samo, ovaj dečak je suviše nežan. Pošto ne znaš šta ću mu ja uradit kad me dira. Da. Dakle, ja počnem. Evo, ja idem. Pa nismo rano, kasnimo. Da, ali treba da počnemo da govorimo i onda... Ovaj ministar financija... Crne Gore, znate, guvernerka? Da. Potpredsjednika vlade. On kasni. Pa svi smo, da, možemo. Da li možete da me stavite? Aha, ok, dobro. Good morning, it's still morning. It is 10 minutes past the time, the starting time, and the organizers are telling me we need to start. My name is Jana Repanšek. I'm the director of the Center of Excellence in Finance, based in Slovenia, with membership of countries in the Western Balkans. This is why the organizers asked me to moderate this session. I actually have two of my board members in the panel. Thank you, especially. The topic of the session is paving the way to prosperity, economic and financial strategies for the Western Balkans growth. Now, we are going to focus on EU accession process and the key drivers for economic and institutional reforms. We are also going to focus on measures that should be taken in order to ensure sustainable fiscal policies and prevent debt crisis, because some of the countries have been having increased debt levels. Another question on the table is how to actually attract more foreign direct investment to the Western Balkans. I have a very esteemed group of speakers today. I will give the word first to you, Vice Prime Minister Fatmir Bitici, to deliver keynote address. After your keynote address, I will introduce other speakers and ask for their interventions, and then we go from there. So please, the word is yours.
Thank you.
Ви благодарам, госпожо Яна.
Actually accepting and being here today, moderating this panel discussion, respected Ms. Ivana Živković, Assistant Secretary General of United Nations, Ms. Anita Bežovska, Governor of National Bank of Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Aleksandar Damjanović, Minister of Finance of Montenegro. Hello to everybody. It's a really good day today where we can have a chance to speak on this session that is quite tricky.
Yeah.
Paving the way to prosperity, EcoFin strategies for the Western Balkan growth. And actually, when I was thinking on what should be the main points to talk, I said that this session as such, for me, it represents several key values in which we have to base our policies. And that's complexity, mutual dependency, growth, wisdom, and collective responsibility. It is important to remind ourselves that there is no prosperity in isolation, greediness, exclusivity, and stubbornness. And therefore, 5 years ago, believing in opposite of all this, happened that we are here today on Prespa Forum Dialogue to celebrate, but also to remind ourselves on the postulates of progress and prosperity. The Prespa Agreement has opened a new chapter in the region, paving the way to prosperity and stability. Besides enhancing diplomatic relations and collaboration between Greece and North Macedonia, and with that boosting economic growth and promoting cross-border initiatives between both countries, it has furthermore had a domino effect in the wider Balkan region. The Prespa Agreement has, as I say, paved the way to prosperity by removing barriers, fostering cooperation, and inspiring other nations. It has created a positive trajectory for economic development, political stability, and regional integration, bringing lasting benefits to Greece, North Macedonia, and I think the entire Western Balkan region. The same region that is now paving its way to prosperity through EU accession and to align our EcoFin policies with EU standards, I think that we should undertake several specific steps, such as strengthening institutional framework by establishing a robust and transparent institution that will ensure effective governance. I mention once more, effective governance. Implementing structural reforms of economies to improve competitiveness. This includes access to markets and regional integration of the economies, access to larger supply chains, nearshoring, and other competitive advantages the Western Balkan has. Adopt sound fiscal policies, including reducing budget deficits, efficient management of public finances, and promoting fiscal discipline. Harmonization of legislation with the EU, and lastly, improving the financial sectors. In a significant move towards European Union integration, lastly, President Ursula von der Leyen presented a comprehensive four-pillar plan to bring the Western Balkan closer to the European Union. This strategic plan encompasses a range of initiatives designed to address key challenges and strengthen the ties between the region and the European Union. The plan is built on four important pillars: bringing the Western Balkan closer to the EU single market, deepening regional economic integration, accelerating fundamental reforms, and increasing pre-accession funds in the Western Balkans. This plan sets a clear, structured initiative for the region's progress towards European Union integration. It offers a promising framework for advancing stability, cooperation, and shared prosperity in the Western Balkans. Respected. This way forward towards EU prosperity is also paved with complexity, mutual dependency, growth, wisdom, and collective responsibility. And as Prespa Agreement holds significance within the framework of European integration and the underlying ideology of the European Union, because as its core of the European Union is built upon principles of cooperation, peace, and pursuit of common goals. By finding a mutual acceptable solution, the agreements reflect the EU's commitment to peace and regional stability. This all makes me a pragmatic optimist that our way forward will be prosperous. Or as the whole Prespa Forum Dialogue is titled, whether the widened European family by 2030 is mission possible, I would say even earlier than that. Individually, we are small countries with great aspirations, but together we are a great region with even greater opportunities and prosperity. The key to greatness is through joint forces. I strongly believe that only through regional competitiveness we create a resilient and prosperous region which will be adaptable to the challenges of entering the big EU market until its full integration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bitici. Thank you. What I liked is your reference to complexity. actually, and when we are talking about complexity, this is a non-technical term. It's just that we understand that things are complex and not linear, in a sense that if something happens, then the result will be obvious. But what I like is your ambition when you say, you know, whether by 2030 it's mission possible or mission impossible. From where I stand, I think the region, the countries in the region need to be very ambitious and very brave and firm in their intention. That's key, to be vocal and say what your ambitions are, and then of course walk the talk. And I congratulate North Macedonia for doing this very visibly. Now, going on, as I said, I'm going to quickly introduce speakers, but you did it on my behalf, so I will skip that. But definitely I would like to invite to say a few words. Mrs. Ivana Živković, you are UNDP Assistant Secretary General, very high position in New York. Congratulations for this position. And you are also Director of the Regional Bureau for Europe and Commonwealth of Independent States. I understand that you are traveling the region right now. So why don't you say a few words about your work, what UNDP does in this region?
Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to participate at Prespa Forum, and I have used this opportunity to meet with representatives of the government of North Macedonia, which was also great pleasure. I wanted to share some important work that the United Nations Development Program does to support our program countries in the Western Balkans to implement their plans for inclusive, resilient, and also sustainable growth. We can see that the Western Balkans has made significant progress in building economies that can easier integrate to the single European market once the time comes for that, and also that they have progressed significantly on their regional economic integration in many ways. And we see still that although there have been increases in wages and job growth in the region, convergence with income levels of the European Union have been slow, and labor force participation has of course felt during the pandemic times. It is worrisome that every fifth person in the Western Balkans is not in education, employment, or training, and this is twice higher than the European Union average, while outward migration also is of a primary concern. In line with the accession processes, governments of the Western Balkans have committed to alignment with EU pillar of social rights, and this is complementary to the Sustainable Development Goals. In addition to accelerating green, just, and digital transformations, we also pay a lot of attention to leaving no one behind principle, which means that the benefits of economic development need to be shared with all segments of the society, and they need to support employment creation, but also decent work, redistributive programs to reduce poverty and also to diminish social exclusion. In that way, I wanted to also stress a few examples of how concretely we work in the region of the Western Balkans. In North Macedonia, since 2007, we are supporting the government in creating jobs and reducing unemployment. And so far, we have provided support to 14,000 small and medium enterprises through grants and mentorship projects. In Albania, for example, we have supported social protection reforms. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have helped design and implement SDG-aligned and gender-sensitive development strategies, and supported introduction of energy service companies to help green local government energy financing. In Kosovo, we have assisted with the energy support package that included development of 4 energy efficient schemes and that helped 9,000 households. In Montenegro, we have provided support to the Ministry of Finance in regulatory impact assessments and also with public-private partnerships. And finally, in Serbia, we have been providing support for school-to-work transitions in skills and education training, in vocational and educational learning, particularly in digital skills for youth and young Roma, enabling the practical skills of these vulnerable groups. So I would stop it here and perhaps we continue later. Thank you.
Thank you for presenting UNDP work in the region. It certainly helps that you are Croatian national and you know the region. So that's a big plus. So thank you for your contributions. As far as my institution, we've been in contact on numerous occasions and your work is an inspiration to us.
Thank you. It's great to hear the appreciation, and of course, throughout my career in the Foreign Service of Croatia, we have been focused on the Western Balkans throughout. So it is a pleasure to be able to contribute to this work.
Yes. Thank you for your intervention. Now I would like to transition to the next speaker, which is Governor Anita Angelovska-Bežovska. Governor, I've been listening to Mr. Betici's intervention from saying, you know, how important it is for institutions to have capacity. And I have to say that the National Bank of the Republic of North Macedonia is one of the institutions that, as far as the CEF observes, is of the stronger ones in the region. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Please, could you explain what your focus at work right now is? Where do you see our challenges and where we have to pay attention?
Okay, thank you very much, Jana, and many thanks to the organizers. It's really a pleasure being part of this event. In my quick remarks, I will reflect on the status of the income convergence of the Western Balkan region. So first, to start with, the income level of the Western Balkan region is only about 40% from the EU average income, which points to a huge income gap across all economies in the Western Balkan. Even more importantly is that the pace of income convergence is relatively slow. The pace has particularly slowed down in the period following global financial crisis from many, many reasons. So the slowing down of the income convergence, when we look at the factors, we can really say that it can be attributed to structural aspects. How can we conclude this? Well, simply looking through the potential growth of the region. In the last 2 decades, potential of the growth of the Western Balkan region was broadly halved, from about 5% to 2.5%. Of course, if we look at the potential growth of the EU, it also declined, but the pace of decline in our region is stronger. What does it mean for us? It means that looking forward, the challenges for catching up with the EU are even stronger than they have been in the past. So what explains this narrowing or decline in the potential growth in the Western Balkan region? Simply looking at the growth, a standard growth accounting framework, we can attribute this to all 3 factors for long-term growth of the economies. First, total factor productivity, capital stock, and labor capital. Let me just quickly reflect on each of them, where the region stands, what's the situation in the region. So concerning the labor, practically the trends are striking, as if you look the working age population share, it has been declining. Currently in the Western Balkan region is about 65%, which means decline of about 5 percentage points in the last decade. And according to the estimates of the World Bank, this trend will continue, the working age population will continue shrinking, and by 2050 it will come down to about 60. Why? Because of 2 adverse factors, adverse demographics and immigration that all regions face. Even more problematic or worrisome for all of us in the region is that According to some estimates, 1/3 of the immigration is immigration of high-skilled labor force, which means that the immigration does not create problems only for the quantity of the labor force. It also affects current but also future quality of the labor force. So this practically calls for a set of policies, such as policies first to mitigate immigration. So to sum up, the speed of the growth of the Western Balkan region is not sufficient for stronger and faster narrowing of the income gap to the EU. This clearly calls for acceleration of the structural and institutional reforms, first to address old structural hurdles that existed even before, these pandemics and relatively new faced challenges, but still not addressed, and maybe even more came at the surface during this crisis period. And second, to address the new challenges that these unprecedented shocks, pandemics, energy crisis, war in Ukraine, will leave as a legacy, and maybe we're still not aware what kind of issues and what kind of scars our economy will feel from these new challenges. And last but not least, just to remind ourselves that based on the fast and past convergence episode in the Central and Southeastern Europe, EU accession process can play a catalytic role in implementing the structural reforms. So no doubt that our crucial priority is focusing on the EU accession for the better life of all the citizens of our economy. Thank you.
Thank you for this very comprehensive picture of what the situation is. It's clear that, as you say, that EU accession process is a magnet for it. And at the same time, I ask, how to strengthen institutions in the region. You said where the region is as far as institutional capacity. And this is also what to do and how to do it, how to do it, that this institutional strength improves. Thank you, it was very enlightening. Going on with the next intervention, the speaker is Minister of Finance Aleksandar Damjanovic. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Why don't you present us with your point of view on the issues that we are discussing?
Thank you. This is Jana, Fatmir, Anita, Ivana, dear guests, dear participants. With gratitude for the opportunity to discuss a topic that is of vital importance for us, Western Balkans residents, and which concerns the prosperity of the region and the growth of the living standards of the inhabitants. I would like to point out a few preconditions for the catching up with convergence with EU economies. And I remind that the similar topics we are discussing today have also been on the table 20 years ago in Thessaloniki, when the Western Balkan countries were promised a European perspective. And as Anita said, they are still about 35 to 40% of EU income. I don't know what about Macedonia, but in Montenegro it's about 40%. Some of the most important preconditions is stronger regional cooperation, of course. Fatmir said about that. An opening of borders, better connectivity, and the path to a common market in the Western Balkans, common market with 15 million residents, which means, I think, 8 or 9 countries in EU. And of course, so that the 6 countries would be more attractive for serious and credible large investors compared to each one individually, of course. And especially when it comes to investments in road or some energy infrastructure. The intensifying of cooperation and exchange of experience for creating better conditions for the absorption of EU funds, of course, especially IPA funds, also presents a major challenge, seeing as the utilization level in Montenegro and other Western Balkan countries is unjustifiably low, and time being one of the greatest resources, I think, is running out. On one hand, Montenegro is faced with a drain of young educated personnel in a process that now has been going on for nearly 2 decades, probably since independence 2006, without having a proper strategy or how to stop the process, not only in Montenegro, but with the Western Balkan countries. The lack of personnel is especially felt even in sectors as tourism and construction. This is a common threat for the entire region, probably the most dangerous threat in this moment. On the other hand, as a result of economic migrations and the unfortunate war in Ukraine, today in Montenegro, about 10% of the total population consists of citizens of Ukraine and the Russian Federation, whose economic potential is huge, is indisputable, and Montenegro is looking for ways to valorize it. It's not easy to find some good way. These people are young, educated, and some of them are digital technology experts, and etc., which is a game changer in the positive diversification of the Montenegrin economy which we need. All these challenges and processes require quick and concrete response, measures, policies. Change is fast-paced, that the global environment challenging and the task complex, especially in the terms of providing a stable economic and financial environment. And time is running out, as I said. It is for these reasons that we have to open up. We have to be innovative, cooperate, help each other, and exchange good ideas and good practice. And I think that therein lies the key to prosperity of the Western Balkans countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Damjanovic. You are mentioning immigration and emigration, and that's quite a problem that is to be tackled. But you mentioned the inflow of the talent and how to use it.
Change the structure of labor market in Montenegro.
Yeah.
For 5
and
to
many
10
other
years.
things also. Yeah. So I heard a lot of reference to cooperation, to complexity, to being determined to go to the European Union even sooner than 2030. What I can say is, you know, from where the CF, my institution, stands, and we have about 3,000 people that come from this region to work with us on their capacity. And we see that there is enormous talent in this region. Amazing, more than this region actually is recognizing, you know, as far as being confident and comfortable saying, you know, I can do it, I can really do it. But it's nice to hear, you know, the ambition that you have.
Maybe just in order to not forget, because you asked after my introduction speech actually the word of ambitious, and that you praise. I would say that being ambitious, especially as a high-level official, is the only answer towards the expectation of our kids for their future. There is no other answer to our kids. And therefore we have to do everything that is needed, even earlier than we or someone would like to see us in a bigger family. Because that means unlocking their talent, unlocking their opportunity for being there where they want to be, not where we are deciding that they have to be. And therefore, the word of ambitious is not only saying that as any politicians that we should be ambitious, but it's the only answer towards what the next generation is expecting from us.
Exactly, and there is more and more awareness in the region about this fact, we notice. When we actually are discussing economic and financial strategies and policies, we actually first need to understand what is behind these economic and financial policies, meaning why would you need to do it? Yeah, because of the kids, because of the young generations, because of the people that we want to stay here in this geographic region and contribute to their societies. And this is before we start actually discussing economic and financial strategies. But before I ask additional questions to the panelists, I would like to ask the audience whether you have any questions for the speakers, or would you like to comment any of the interventions that they made? And let me say that this invitation will be open for you throughout this last 15 minutes about our being together. Let me say also what's going on currently. I think this is Minister Bekteshi, right? Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the podium.
Sorry for being late.
You arrived just on time. Excellent. But let me leave you a little bit to get to your breath and start a discussion among the panelists. So I prepared some questions, and actually the question for you, Vice Prime Minister, is actually you were referring, to the soft areas of, complexity, etc. But let's talk hard ones. Let's talk investments, and what investments need to be made in the implementation of the energy transition strategies policies, and how can they actually be financed?
Well, I would say not only in regard the investment in energy, but general, because at the beginning you mentioned how we should actually unlock or attract more investment in the Western Balkans as such, and what kind of policies they should be. It's all about unlocking the potential, but I think that now it's a time when we have understood that there is no further development and energy security and stability without looking at broadly as a regional perspective, not only nationally. So as a response to your question would be, are we able to cooperate as a region in order to attract investment in the energy sector that will ensure our future interdependency in energy security and stability, rather than looking from the national perspective as such? If we are able to do that, I think then it's easy to unlock the potential of finding finance. Minister Bekteshi is here, and we just yesterday approved 2 out of, actually 3 out of 4 big, huge strategic investment in energy sector that are fully private investments, amounting more than 1 billion euros investment, one of more than 1 gigawatt energy production in the upcoming period, 90% of it based on renewable energy. So it's not whether there is a potential of funding it. If you create a good strategy in unlocking the potential. But furthermore, we are all even speaking how we might actually enhance more regional investment, joint regional investment, in order to secure and to create the interdependency between ourselves, which will mean more cooperation in the next future energy and energy security. So yeah, enabling better environment for investors is a must. That goes along with stronger institution, transparent and accountable, and moreover, to have enabling and legislation which actually allows fair competition between different actors.
Like investors, etc.,
Absolutely.
right? But you were saying, okay, you were saying the private capital is actually now being invested in this, and it's in, yeah. So it's all about looking at unlocking the potential, as you say. Thank you for that. Now, Governor Angelovska-Bežovska was talking about productivity, and that this productivity is really low compared to what is the average in the EU. What is the view from your point where you are sitting? How can this productivity be increased?
From the UNDP scope of work, we can help the governments address this through the soft measures, some improvements. Perhaps we can invest more in vocational and educational training programs. We can also work on fostering entrepreneurship, which is very important, and support to small and medium enterprises. In addition, we need to invest in green transformation and also digital infrastructure that is already on the way, but further efforts will be needed. And already mentioned many times, regional economic integration. It's something that will create more opportunities for all of the countries of the region to be stronger, to be more competitive in the European market, but also in the global markets, as the governor has mentioned. In addition, the governance work that we do with streamlining the bureaucracy and reducing corruption and enhancing transparency, this is also the measures that that are necessary and that we're already working on. And lastly, good work and living conditions. It's something that is also important for the youth to stay and for the population to be satisfied. So we're addressing all of those issues and are prepared to do more, also with our agencies, funds and programs for the United Nations other agencies, funds and programs that we work closely with.
You are mentioning good working and living conditions for people in this region. I would say from what I have been observing, especially young people, the immigration is a huge problem of this region. The region is emptying of the talent in a way. And I say European Union is gladly accepting this talent, also in Slovenia. So, Governor, what can policymakers do in the region considering this to at least slow it down, if not stop it?
Yes, as you said, you're completely right. Immigration is one of the key challenges that the Western Balkan region faces. In fact, if we look World Bank data, 1 in 5 born in the Western Balkan region live abroad. And even more worrisome, the recent surveys, for example, a survey conducted in 2021 in the Western Balkan region, points that 1/3 of the surveyed are considering emigrating. So definitely it has a huge impact. Do you know?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Let's see. Just let's see how to turn it on. Is it? Yeah.
Se sluša сега? Da. Okay, Jana, you're completely right that immigration is one of the key challenges that the Western Balkan region faces with. If I refer to World Bank report, 1 in 5 born in the Western Balkan region today live abroad, and according to one recent survey, 1/3 of the surveyed consider emigrating. So no doubt that this is a huge challenge in the region, and in fact there are some estimates that in the last decade, in the absence of immigration trends in the Western Balkan region, growth could have been higher by about 7 percentage points and income convergence higher by about, on average, 2 to 3 percentage points. So what can we do as a policymakers? First, I mean, it's very important to start with what are the causes for the immigration. If we all understand that the main reason for immigration is wide income and quality of life gaps across countries, it's clear that we have to focus again on the structural front, institutional reform, to narrow the income gap, lift the income in the society, improve the living conditions, to mitigate practically the immigration. Of course, we cannot stop immigration as a policymakers, but what we can do is working on mitigating the adverse implications of the immigration, and plus maximizing the benefits of immigration, because it can bring also some benefits in the economies. So mitigating the effects of the immigration first requires, as I mentioned, structural reforms, lifting the income level, thus mitigating, you know, the conduciveness to leave the economy. Second, we should try to better use the potential that we already have in our economies. I refer here, for example, to labor active policies. For example, increasing the life expectancy. If you compare life expectancy in our region, it's on average 74 years. In comparing with EU, about 80 years. Second, participation rate, especially of women and young. In our case, only 54%, I mean in the Western Balkan region, 54% of the women are active on the labor market in comparison to 70% in the EU. So practically, there are a lot of challenges, how also better to use the potential that we already have. And last but not least, through strengthening the ties with the diaspora, we can also maximize some benefits. For example, remittances that play a key role across the whole region, accounting on average about 10 percentage points of GDP. They serve as a lifeline to support the consumption in the society, but also the investments and everything else which comes with investments, such as technology, transfer of know-how, and even if we have a proper policies, they can be conducive to return immigration. So practically we cannot stop, but we should do our best to maximize, you know, how can say, alleviate the adverse effect and maximize the benefits.
Thank you for this very comprehensive view on it. The story continues. This will become even more important in the years to come, I'm sure. Now, lastly, Minister Dabjanovic, let me ask you about foreign direct investments in Montenegro. How are you doing in this respect right now, and what are your views to it? What's going on?
Thanks, Jana. In recent years, Montenegro has recorded remarkable amount of foreign direct investments thanks to competitive tax rates, thanks to geographical locations, thanks to climate tax, thanks to other things. And the fact that we are a candidate for EU also contribute to good climate for foreign investments. Tourism recorded a high growth after the pandemic, especially last year and current year, as did the construction sector, and the main investment potential, I think, is in the field of energy, especially green energy, which mentioned solar energy, and of course, road infrastructure. I would like to remind you that we have completed the first section of the highway, and we expect to continue construction and connect with Serbia soon. The first section was completed by the Chinese company, CRBC, with credit support from the Chinese Exim Bank. It means a lot. and they are interested in continuing with the project. Montenegro, of course, is open to investors from all over the world, all countries, including, of course, EU countries, China, Turkey, Arabic countries, United States, of course. And seeing as we follow the EU, and of course EU policy in terms of sanctions against the Russian Federation, we lost a great number of Russian investors, tourists, of course. So we had to focus to other region. So we had to focus the region of the Western Balkans and, of course, our closest neighboring countries. And probably the main reasons why we should to keep push up to create a common market with 15 millions to be attractive for large foreign investors within Berlin process or within CEFTA or Open Balkan, I think doesn't matter. But let's do it. Let's do it now. Thank you.
Thank you for this view of yours. Of course, Montenegro has been investing a lot, as you said. This is also one way to create jobs and keep the young in countries. And it's all about unlocking potential, that you say. We are approaching the close of our session. Therefore, I would like to invite Minister of Economy, Krešnik Bekteshi, to say a few words, closing words for this session. Of course, you haven't heard all the panelists what they said, but we've been in communication before the session, and you have the sense of what was going on here. So could you provide your view to the topic of the session?
First of all, I would like to congratulate the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the great organization and bringing us all together here in order to discuss such important topics. To be very sincere, I've heard everything because it's online as well, and I was traveling from Skopje to here. And looking at the news, it seems that it gives a positive impact to the citizens, first of all, regarding the messages that all of us, we are sending from here. So in order to close or to sum up these discussions, I will start with the word E, which is EU, and to pave the way to the prosperity as a region, including North Macedonia. Without EU, it will be very difficult. And not to have illusions that we cannot survive, but we cannot make that progress that the EU member states are having at the moment. Without starting the negotiations, opening the chapters, not only as North Macedonia, overall as a region, we cannot decrease the gap that was given by concrete examples by all the speakers that we are having as countries comparing with those of the EU. So we cannot stop or mitigate the immigration because of the fact that they are looking for better life, not for only for better salaries, for a better standard of living, for a quality of life. And I think we are at the point that most of the colleagues already mentioned to start think of using the benefits of the previous immigration for our countries overall. I think by the governor was mentioned that there is not only one country in the world that can fully stop the immigration, but the ones which are working with a strategy, which makes structural reforms, make a benefit of that. So as Western Balkan countries, we have to come up with strategy policies in order to start the one of the 5 citizens of the region which are working and living abroad to make it as a benefit and bringing them here in the form, why not, of investments, having the know-how, the business that they are doing abroad. So starting with the E word, as I mentioned, it was mentioned economy, first of all, which for sure it has an impact when it comes to the standard of living, to the increase of the salaries, minimum wage, average wage, decrease that gap, the energy, the e-government, e-services, in order to have a better services, not only for the investors, but also for the people, for the citizens overall, and equality. Mm-hmm. Why equality? Because not by alone, as a country, we can make all this progress. All the Western Balkan countries should be treated equal when it comes to the help that the EU provides, but also when it comes to the road that all of us we have in front in order to be integrated. So the word E is crucial for North Macedonia, but I'm more than convinced that it's crucial also for our neighbors, especially for the Balkan countries. Because without EU, we would survive, but we cannot achieve the progress that is accepted from the citizens of ours, but also which is also accepted as a form of reform from the EU member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mekteshi. You said it. There is no more to add as a concluding word. So in this respect, I would like to thank to the panelists for your contributions and congratulate you for your amazing work that you do. What you do is basically sacrifice your energy, your life for your countries. And this is admirable. Thank you so much.
Family photo?